Showtime, folks.
Showtime.
All right. Hello, anybody that's in the chat that's listening to us.
Yeah, what's up?
Hi.
Yeah.
Let's rock and roll, as the kids always say. They always say that.
I don't know any kids that say that.
No.
All the kids say that. Most kids say that.
There's
Almost
a high
100%.
school right down the street from me. Should I go over and ask them?
You probably hear it
"Hey,
all the time.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Yeah.
Let's
I
rock
have high
and
schoolers in
roll."
my house. I will ask the ones that live here, and they will laugh at me and say I'm a boomer dad.
All right. Welcome to Better Talk Saul. I am Dylan Schuck.
Now I'm Dan Fields.
And I'm Karen Peterson.
In this podcast, we're going to be discussing the series finale of the AMC original show, Better Talk Saul. You're listening to Better Talk Saul. In this podcast, we're not pretending that Breaking Bad doesn't exist, so tread lightly if you're concerned about that show's spoilers.
Which is
There it
good,
is.
because that's what this whole episode was.
Right.
Which is why we have to give the warning, right? People will just get it spoiled. They're going to be like, I think I can listen to the Better Call Saul finale podcast and not get Breaking Bad spoilers.
Yeah.
Well,
Again,
in
that
fairness,
warning made a lot more sense at the beginning, the first couple episodes. Doesn't
it
make
did.
sense.
And that's the thing is, like, in fairness, usually prequels end where their predecessor begins, not after their predecessor ends. So,
Yeah.
like, I actually know someone the other night. He watched all of Better Call Saul, I guess, and he watched the finale. He's like, I guess I'll start Breaking Bad now. I was like, wait, I'm sorry, what?
There are people that
wild.
watched. I that's bizarre. The Better Call Saul
Mhm.
that attracted that they were attracted to that,
Yeah.
but not Breaking Bad. I do want to say also right off the bat that this is not the end of Better Talk Saul. It's close
Yay.
to the end of Better Talk Saul, but we
Boo.
do have so far. What the plan is that we're gonna do one episode a month for 6 months on each season of Breaking Bad. So we're gonna wait a month so we can watch Breaking Bad. I don't have to get Dan completely bought into this, but if he doesn't watch it, but I think he is. You're watching it right now,
Yeah.
aren't you?
No. Yeah. I am going to start watching it again.
Okay. I feel like a month gives a lot of time there, So what the plan is, we're going to wait a month after. Next week, we're still going to do a mailbag episode like we always do, and then we're going to do an episode a month on Breaking Bad. So look forward to that. So now that
Are we
finished
gonna
it,
do 5A and 5B as two separate episodes?
we'll
like the
probably
show
combine
aired
that
it?
into one.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah. So I guess it's 5 months then
Yeah.
at that point. So wait, am I like Better Call Saul had like way more episodes than Breaking Bad, right?
It had a whole
think
extra
so.
season.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. Anyway, all right, so we'll get started here.
Was anyone else nervous? Like I was
Yeah,
kind of nervous going into
I
the
am.
show. Like not this show, but the other show. What's going to happen? I can't believe it's over. A little sad, bittersweet, no matter what, that this journey was
I
ending.
just was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to watch the last episode. And I think a
Yeah.
part of that was also just the fact that apparently they're not doing the 2 more movies. Like they're saying this is it. And I'm just like, but I don't want to be done with this universe. I like it. So
I'm nervous to do the podcast because I want to do a good finale episode. I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to come upon things to talk about and stuff like that, but I'm just kind of like, if I talk to somebody right after I watch the episode, I don't know if I would have had a lot to say immediately. Kind of had to sit. Now, I watched this live when it aired, and I have never watched any of the episodes live as they aired. And boy, a lot of fucking commercials.
What the hell was up with the commercials?
Is that normal?
It's a disaster.
No, it was way more than usual.
And
it's like,
every
oh,
3
cool.
minutes.
So the episode is an hour and a half or whatever. And it's like, no, it's not. It's like 45 minutes with 45 minutes of commercials.
Yeah, it was a lot of commercials, but they were also trying to they did one commercial that was like, Better Call Saul's gone, but Bob Odenkirk and Juan
And
Carlos
Giancarlo
Esposito.
No,
Yeah.
it was Saul and Gus are done or something like that.
Right.
But
Right,
Bob
that's right.
and Giancarlo will be back.
Yeah, because there's a new series coming out with both of
Mhm.
them. Yeah, there was
Two
literally
new
like a
series, yeah.
3-minute scene after commercial break, and it went back to commercials. I was like, "Wow, is this
Mhm.
how people watch TV now?"
Yeah.
Someone's got to pay for all those dumb Walking Dead shows. All these
Right.
stupid commercials
Right.
are
It's
paying
true.
for it. It's
They're
awful.
subsidizing all the Walking Dead series. That probably I wouldn't be surprised if they get higher ratings. Just because they're making so many of them, they have to be, right? Like they have to be getting higher rating, like super high ratings.
It's a business. Yeah, they have to be.
They have hardcore fans that are just they'll watch
Weird.
everything Walking Dead related. So
I mean, I was a diehard fan for a long time.
Mhm.
Didn't last super forever, but there's now 4 Walking Dead series. Anyway, we don't have to talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Watching Dead.
The Dead Inside show. Tune in to this upcoming Dead Inside
I like
show.
watching Dead Inside.
Yeah.
The commercial Dead.
So,
Before we get into the actual breakdown of the episode, I'm just curious overall how you guys felt when it was done. Like, what emotions did you feel at the end?
I almost teared up when they were looking at each other in the courtroom. Like they could have made me cry if they just maybe spent 10 more seconds trying to make me cry. I would have happened.
If he had
Like,
cried, I
what?
don't know what it is. If he would have cried, I probably would have cried. I don't know what it is. Ever since Forrest
Watching
Gump,
people cry make me
especially
cry.
like seeing like grown ass men crying on TV, I feel like it really can pull it out of you.
And by the way, just so we know, Better Talk Saul does not endorse grown men crying. It's not appropriate. It's not
Speak
how
for
you're
yourself.
supposed to be. Yeah, it's not how
I
you're supposed to
personally
be.
do.
It's not how we
It's
were
sexy.
raised. Okay, that's not how we were raised. The episode total is actually 69 minutes.
That
Nice.
feels intentional.
For
but
all events.
yeah, it seemed like it was about 30 minutes of commercials. I believe it was like an hour and 40 after the commercials. But yeah,
I was happy. Yeah, I don't know, Dylan. What did you think when it ended?
I think it was not the same satisfaction that Breaking Bad gave, but I didn't expect the same satisfaction that Breaking Bad gave because their stories are different, right? Like Walter White kind of used getting cancer to try to gain the respect he always wanted, and the power that he always wanted, and kind of overcome regrets. And I think in a lot of ways, Jimmy just kind of wanted to exist, being himself. And there's no like clear lines. I know everyone's like, I've heard everybody going, when he put on that jacket, he became Saul, but the second he did this, then he became Jimmy again. And like everyone's so obsessed with the Bravo Vince thing. But this was a quaint finale that I think was a nice way to wind down the story and leave us with a lot kind of open to interpretation, even though he's definitely, he's going to jail for life, or he's going to jail, until his death, right? Unless it's good
behavior.
Yeah.
You never know. He'll be out in 10 years, 15, I bet.
And for me, when I think about my death, I always want to make sure I get the best death I can, which is why I choose liquid death.
Oh, nice.
Liquid death. Murder your thirst with mountain water.
Look at us.
Woo!
With mountain water straight from the Alps. Murder your thirst with liquid death.
Yeah.
You can use promo code BetterTalkSaul at any convenience store. Liquid death. All three of us are crushing liquid death. I can see this.
And we all have different ones. I love this.
Yeah, mine's the lime one.
What flavor? Oh, nice.
It's lime. Yeah, it's good.
I almost got the mango, but I was like, I'm not feeling
it's good.
mango.
It's good.
I saw the smile on Karen's face when she knew where I was going. She was like, yeah, I just wanted, I don't have another beverage and I'm going to be thirsty. So I was like, let's get this done right off the bat so I can crack my liquid death.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was waiting for it too.
Shout outs to Liquid Death, the #1 sponsor of any podcast ever with Better Talk Saul. And again, you can use promo code Better Talk Saul at any convenience store. Liquid Death is sold. The louder you yell the promo code, the more of a discount you get, which is awesome.
They love it.
Yes,
I
it's
loved
their
it.
favorite thing.
I loved the ending. I felt like, I mean, you know, you mentioned Breaking Bad, Dylan. Like, it was what, 8 years ago when that show ended. I barely remember it. We weren't doing a podcast on it, so I wasn't watching it as critically as I watched this one. But I just felt like as a show with all the callbacks and the flashbacks, and it was way better. I thought it was even more fulfilling than how I felt at Breaking Bad. You know, it felt way more action oriented, I guess. And, you know, Jesse's driving away and laughing and crying, like that was cathartic. But as far as like, we're more rewarding, maybe, and it just felt more emotional, like seeing this and seeing Jimmy come out on top a little bit and being honest with who he was. So yeah, I ended it. I turned it off, and I think Mike said in the chat, like at first he wasn't sure, but a lot of shows lately, I feel like I sleep on it. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, wow, you know, that really was good. And then I feel even better about it.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll watch a movie, and I've talked to Karen about this before many times, where I like wasn't initially loved it, but then if I can't stop thinking about it, that's a really good sign. And so
yeah,
Karen.
For me it was I was obviously, other than the commercials, I was completely just swept up in it the whole time. And when it was over, I felt like I just breathed this sigh of like, wow, they did it. They did exactly what they needed to do. This was the perfect finale for this show. I mean, what you're saying, Dylan, like Saul, Jimmy, and Walter are two completely different people, and their shows are completely different types of shows. And their finales shouldn't be the same type of finale. That would have been really unfulfilling if this suddenly was like Saul trying to go out in a blaze of glory or something, and trying to, like, everybody that he had associated with is pretty much dead. And so it's like, who was there left to fight? And plus, Jimmy was never a fighter. He was a verbal fighter, but physically he would run away from a fight. So
what if in the middle of the courtroom he like chirped his keys, and all of a sudden all the fucking lawyers and the judge just got mowed down with bullets? He saves Kim's life.
That would have been the absolute worst thing that could have ever happened to any show ever.
Worse than jumping.
And I really felt like this was the finale that was true to the character. It was the finale that really felt right for the show. And just like what they did all along the way, there's so many times, other than the fact that my prediction last week turned out to be correct, which I was proud of myself for that. But
which one did you predict?
I said that Jimmy was going to prison and he was going to thrive. And he's working in the bakery and having a good old time, and everyone respects him. So it's exactly what I saw.
I think Dan called, what's his name, being his new lawyer.
You called that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I did. And
as soon as Francesca said he switched sides, that was,
Yeah, and it was so great to see Jimmy in a courtroom as a prisoner of sorts and not in there. And he was still wheeling and dealing, but how cool was that? Like, that's the thing. I felt like all these scenes were neat just to see these different perspectives.
Yeah.
It was very satisfying.
And to see that Bill has kind of, obviously he's not as corrupt as Jimmy was or Saul, but he's taken on a lot of the exact same shit that he'd been doing as a lawyer. He's got the bus stop bench. He's got the catchy tagline when he answers the phone. You know, it's like, yeah, you're totally the same type of lawyer. Why were you ever looking down on him? It's working for you now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Better Call Saul scene in the in the bus didn't exactly work for me, but it didn't like not work for me. It wasn't like I was like upset or didn't like it, but it just didn't. I felt like that could have been a more powerful scene for me, and it didn't quite get there. But I think without the chant of Better Call Saul, maybe would have liked it better, and maybe just I think it wanted to show that he's going to be okay in prison. You know, like he's respected by these people, so it's not like he's going to be and he's probably going to help them out legally, right? So I think he's going to have a purpose in there, and that he's comfortable around these people. It's not like he's like uncomfortable in the situation. But I liked that they didn't show him like on a stack of mattresses with a bunch of apples, showing that he'd amassed a fortune, and he had armed freaking prisoners all around him protecting him. I like that they showed that that's not what he's interested in, and that in the end he kind of listened to his brother and became the person, the Shawshank Redemption.
Saul Shank Redemption. I love that. That's great. Nice.
I was scared in that scene when right in the beginning of the bus and that guy turned around. I thought it was going to show more like disgruntled, angry people that perhaps he didn't get off or that they were mad. And I was relieved when it was more of like they were rooting for him.
Yeah, I don't know. It went exactly where I thought it was going to go. As soon as that guy turned around, I was like, oh yeah, he's going to know Saul, and he's just going to be like, this is a good dude. He was
one of us.
He fought for us. Yeah, he's one of us. We're going to take care of him, which is exactly, going into the finale, that was exactly the ending for him that I saw coming. It made sense. And that's the thing about this show. Like that's the one time where I feel like I actually really could look at what they'd been giving us and say, okay, this is the logical conclusion. I think so many times they've done the thing that is logical, but we're used to shows going a different direction that it's been harder to predict because we're not expecting them to do the thing that makes the most sense for the character. And in this case, I think they did.
So I also think for a finale of Better Call Saul, that already happened 4 episodes ago with Fun and Games. I think Fun and Games was the finale of Better Call Saul. And this was more of the finale for the entire Breaking Bad universe.
Coda, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's like a coda of Breaking Bad.
Got shot. So Howard gets shot. Or wait, which one was that Fun and Games?
Fun and Games left off with the Breaking Bad, or with the storyline. That's the one
that ended with Kim and Jimmy splitting up.
Oh, okay, yes.
Right, and it was in the next episode. It was black and white. It was kind of
Howard's
has all kind of been the epilogue. I think
sure.
if you're looking for that finale that you got from Breaking Bad, I think Fun and Games was your finale. I think that was more of a Breaking Bad style finale where everything was kind of wrapped up, and there were some surprises, obviously, but in general, you touched in with everybody. You know where everybody's going in their paths going forward, and it's all kind of said and done. And I think this was more of a 4-episode not short story, 4-episode movie in the of the wrap up of the all the survivors basically of Breaking Bad, because we found out a little bit about
even Marie, for crying out loud.
Right. But we learned about why my Anna Gunn's character, Skyler. Yeah, we found out about Skyler a little bit. We definitely got Marie. We definitely we just got all the how the story all kind of wraps up for everybody. I think that Marie's anger is it's understandable, but it's also not. It seems like it's consuming her, and that bums me out for her because
I thought that was such a great performance from Betsy Brandt, though. Like to jump in and reprise that and be the grieving widow who's still grieving, however long it's been later, was just. It was really powerful. Her scenes, especially that scene when they're sitting in the negotiation meeting and just listening to her talk about her experience, and then also Steve's widow too, and his kids and everything, was just like, man, I'm so glad that they brought her back and let her have this.
I bet it was a purple suit she was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
She always wore was purple.
I gotta touch on this. John for counsel.
Well, John for counsel's on fire. He was not happy.
Okay, I just gotta touch on this. What purpose do we have to make up reasons why it's not as good? If we don't nobody's paying.
I don't think it wasn't as good. I think it was as good. I just think it was very different.
Right, yeah. And also we are just I've been doing this a long time. I learned a long time ago that it's okay to say my opinion. There's been a couple times where there's a movie where I'm like, it's a big movie for a lot of people. I don't really want to shit on it, but in general, and those for example, I didn't really like Crazy Rich Asians, that movie. I told Karen I didn't want to do the review because I don't really want to shit on the movie. But other than that specific movie, I will come and say I don't fucking like it. And I actually kind of like saying I don't like things. I think Karen can probably back me up on that.
It's pretty much your favorite thing. You like talking about things you don't like just as much as things you do.
Okay, Karen, scale it back. But yeah, he's I understand.
See, we're not like apologists for the show. My God, if we didn't like it, I'd tell you.
I think it's okay that you didn't like it. Everybody can feel however they do about things. I understand you're frustrated, but don't take it out on us, Sean, for council. We're still voting for you. We're still voting for you for council.
Got my vote.
But it's not. We're not making things up. And secondly, something you said.
Like to what end? Why would we do that? Like we're not actually getting paid for this podcast. So what good would it do for us to like
by liquid death?
Except for the liquid death that I just spent $2 on.
We are getting we are getting all this clout from liquid death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think also John for Council, just to respond to your tweets about not believing this. You're sticking to believability. Believability for us for a fictional show is not high on our totem pole of what we're doing. I never once was taken out of it, not believing it. But in general, even if I wasn't, I get that if you're running into plot holes, you're running situations that take you out of the movie, there's something to be said for that, or the show. There's something to be said for that. But believability is not in general high up on our totem pole for things that we use to not like or like something on a fictional show in general. It can happen.
If we're going to complain about believability, let's talk about the supposed $7 million that Jimmy and Mike dragged through the desert. That wasn't even $1 million.
They would have died 10 times. It's a TV show.
That's not how much $7 million is. Like, there's lots of things that are just not real. But to me, it's like when it comes to believability, it's not could this happen or would this happen in the real world? It's does this make sense within the rules of the world that we are watching?
Mm-hmm. And look, the world sucks. And so I try to watch all TV show and movies and try to just enjoy them. Like, yes, we can critique it. Yes, some things might be better or not, but the world is difficult. Life is difficult. Sports are stressful. Like other things you watch can be stressful. I just try to let this wash over me, and then we come on the podcast. I try to sound smart, maybe make a joke. And that's it.
Crush some fucking liquid death.
Drink a liquid death, and try to make Karen laugh. That's all I care about.
But in general, I will say I didn't walk away from this finale being like, yes, this is everything I wanted. But I don't really walk away from any finales like that at this point. I was sitting there content with it all being over, extremely content with it all being over. And I do once again feel like we kind of already got the finale. This was kind of just easing us off into what's going to happen with that. This could have gone in different directions, and there's some ways I'll even admit that I could have preferred that bus scene. I really could have preferred it being different, but in general, I do like the idea of redemption. And there was some good redemption in here without a happy ending. It's a happy ending in its sense of redemption with him kind of being comfortable and kind of realizing,
going to jail
it's almost like he listened to his brother by the end.
Going to jail for 80 years isn't a happy ending, but it still was in a lot of ways.
Should we talk about the specifics, go through the show now? Because we are getting a few comments and we're starting to delve into specific moments in the episode.
Let's do it.
Sure.
Thank you.
I just realized I have the wrong thing up. Oh yeah, we're using Breaking Bad Wiki. Shout out to Breaking Bad Wiki. We use the Breaking Bad Wiki. Also, for all of you out there, you guys are wondering what's going on in the chat. It's because we're streaming live on YouTube. If you go to our Twitter, at BetterTalkSaul, we have links to it. You can go there and subscribe. It's the Watch and Talk YouTube channel. You can subscribe.
You can also go to YouTube and search Watch and Talk BetterTalkSaul, and it'll come up.
You tried that yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a good idea. Watch and Talk BetterTalkSaul, and it'll come up, and then you subscribe. everybody listening, everybody in the feed, give it a like. We like likes. We love likes. So join in because next week we're still going to do like a mailbag episode. So also we're going to ask people to write in emails, send in voice clips, tweet at us, show up at our homes and say your thoughts, all of those things, and we'll discuss them, and we'll have kind of an all mailbag, all chat episode next week. And we'll just kind of talk about the show as a total, the season as total, the finale, whatever we want. So make sure to join in next week. We will most likely go 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube to go live, and then obviously we still put this on your podcast app. All right, so this episode was titled "Saul Gone," directed and written by Peter Gould. The viewership 1.8 million. That seems really low.
Ouch.
That seems really low. That's what it says. It says according to. Well, never mind. It doesn't say what it's according to. All right, Saul Gone is the 13th episode of the 16th of Better Call Saul, and the 63rd episode of the series altogether. It's the series finale and overall finale conclusion to the Breaking Bad franchise as a whole. It is one of the two finales of Breaking Bad franchise, the other one being Felina by Breaking Bad. Oh, I don't need to read all this. All right, so in 2004, during the trek to the desert, Jimmy and Mike come across a cistern full of water. As they rest, Jimmy jokingly suggests they steal Lalo's money and flee. Didn't sound like jokingly at one point, but I don't think he was planning on stealing that. But I think that was a good callback. There's a lot of callbacks in this episode, but that was a good callback to when they the season 1 finale, when they could have taken the Kettleman's money, and he told Mike, "Why didn't we take it?" And he said, "You're hired to do a job. We did the job, and that's where it stands." And he goes, "No, it held me back. It's never going to hold me back again." And I thought that was a good callback to that.
Mm-hmm.
This leads to a discussion in which the two men. No, go ahead.
Yeah. No, please.
No. It was actually going to be about their conversation. So go on.
This leads to a discussion in which in which two men hypothesize what they would do if they used the money to build the time machine. Mike said that he would go back. See, I disagree with Breaking Bad Wiki. Shout out to Breaking Bad Wiki, but it says Mike says he would go back to 1984 and prevent taking his first bribe. That's not what he said. He said, "I'm going to go back to 2001. Wait, no, go back to 1984. So for those who didn't understand
December
what that
2001, obviously, his son.
He wanted to go to a post 9/11 world and relive that all over again. That's why he originally said that. No, I'm just kidding. That's when his son was killed. So it seemed like he at first was like, "I'm going to go back in time and stop that from happening." But then he stopped it right there, took responsibility for his own part in that, and said, "Never mind, I'd go back to 1984 because he loves the book, and also because he."
But that one line, how powerful! One line to say like, "Hey, I've been taking bribes since the early 80s. I've been a bad cop for 30 years."
And the choice to take that first bribe led to everything else that he did, which ultimately is what led to his son's death.
Yeah. And this whole regret.
And making that realization that, like, wow, if I had made a different choice in 1984, then my son wouldn't have died. And that was just such a powerful moment for him. And then I love what he says next is that, and then I'd go forward 5 or 10 years. There's some people I'd like to check on. I love that. That was great.
Pop. Yeah, I love pop. I just like this whole mechanic of like, we're going back in time to see how much regrets that Saul has had. And even back then, before he was truly Saul, but once he was starting to get mixed up with these bad people, you don't ask people questions like that. And he's projecting clearly. And he made it seem about money, and that scene with Walt was so good. But yeah, I loved the way that they tied all these things back together, including with his brother, which was another prediction I had that came true, by the way.
Yep, you were totally right about that.
I would have liked a Kaylee Ehrmantraut death scene in this finale. So that was kind of disappointing.
We already did the liquid death.
Made John
we don't have to do it again. John would love that.
We love you, John.
Yeah.
So Jimmy says he'd go back 1965, invest in Berkshire Hathaway on the day it was taken over by Berkshire Hathaway, and the day it was taken over by Warren Buffett, and become a billionaire. Mike chides Jimmy at focusing exclusively on money, and the two then resumed their journey. Did you think? So all of a sudden, as soon as he's trying to escape, the cops are on him way quicker than I expected.
Yeah.
And you're so used
Shout out to Omaha PD. They're on
right,
it.
right. Shout out to Omaha PD, the next sponsor of this podcast. Shout out to Omaha PD. Use promo code BetterTalkSaul to get off of your first crime you commit in Omaha.
Oh yeah. Tell him Dylan sent you.
But I like that. He immediately. I like that window he squeezed out of. They found a very unique building.
They really did.
For that little escape, and it was just very interesting, very weird building with the windows kind of at an angle, and it was clearly had shared walls and whoa.
Yeah, it's like a condo.
Yeah, it was just that they were like, this is so Saul when they found that location. They were like, this is fucking perfect. We're gonna get this building, because I was thinking about that window. I was like, what a weird window. The window's on the bottom, and it's this little tiny thing. I was thinking about it, and I was like, the location scouts are so fucking good in the show. Really I was also thinking, I think we talked about that when we saw Michael's Henrietta, right? Or what was Marguerite. Yeah, her house, very, very unique. Very unique.
That was a cool house.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then he escapes. I like it. We saw the burner phone, and we, the things that he had to choose to take with him.
Why would he open the diamonds in the dumpster?
Oh, yeah. I was wondering. I didn't. Yeah, that was a bad call. He's
freaking out, maybe. But yeah, they showed that in the previously on, I think. I feel like. Because maybe they did, or maybe if they didn't, maybe they were.
I think they were showing that he'd had the diamonds to kind of remind you that he had those as like his escape money.
What do you do with those? I guess take it to a pawn shop.
I think he was going to use them to do the vacuum cleaner guy.
Yeah.
But was he going to get him to come fucking pick him up in the middle of?
I think he thought he was.
Alley?
Yeah. I think he thought they wouldn't find him in the dumpster, and as soon as they kind of moved on, he would get out, go run away again, and then call. And it's like, yeah, that dude is not coming for you. Not when the police are literally chasing you.
This is very Saddam Hussein, like getting caught in like an embarrassing situation, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, like this really felt like this would be on the news. He was found in a dumpster in Omaha. Like that's the kind of things you hear about these type of situations. And it just that he was caught in a trash can. The guy's like, knock, knock, open up, and you're like, oh, he's fucked. He's completely fucked.
Yeah, I'm glad. And it was kind of exciting to see how quickly he got caught. Kind of how like immediately Lalo, or we mentioned on the show before how quickly some of these things happened, and I was like, great, he's caught. Cool. The rest of the show is going to be all about the rest of it, versus like an hour of him running and escaping and freaking dogs and a river, and I didn't want to see any of that. So I was glad he got caught really quick.
Yeah.
So also thank you to the Endless Mike, the Mike that just don't quit, doesn't end. 62 episodes of Breaking Bad, 63 episodes of Better Call Saul. I think we talked about that earlier in the season too. We just talk about things for some reason. Talking about something on a podcast, the easiest way to get me to forget about it fucking forever. If I talked about it on a podcast, for some reason, my memory just does not stick around when we just got it on a podcast. I'm sure people are like, you guys literally just talked about this last week.
Mike with another good nugget in the chat that him being in the dumpster was like a callback to him being in the dumpster for the Sandpiper documents.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about that. Good one.
Point. Yep. Also, I like that he, as he's being booked, Gene overhears some cops in a nearby room watching one of his Saul Goodman commercials on a computer. He makes a phone call to Cinnabon to say that they'll need a new manager. Let it go, dude. They'll fucking figure it out.
I love that he actually that's one of those things about Jimmy though, is like he cares about people, and even though he's such a fuck up and he does really stupid things, and also he really, is fine breaking the law, he also cares about people and he doesn't want to leave them high and dry. He's got employees that are counting on him and he's got a store to report to, so
he took that job seriously. I mean, as much as he might have been faking it at first, but he was good at it. And yeah, I thought that was cute that he called them. And the cops' reaction to the Better Call Saul-ness, the opposite of the prisoners. They hate him, a defense attorney like him, getting crooks off and doing that. Mm-hmm. They were not pumped like those guys on the bus at all.
But perhaps, well, I guess what I would assume is they'd be excited that this federal fugitive was found.
Yeah, that they caught him.
By them.
Sure.
And then
there's a big catch. Yeah.
I want to bring up a little stickler of a thing that maybe there's nothing to it, but he was tried in a federal court. I don't know if they would put him in a New Mexico prison for being charged for a federal crime, but
it's a federal prison.
Yeah, I don't think they put him in New Mexico.
Put him in one that happened to be in
New Mexico. That feels like a coincidence. Maybe that's, I don't know. That's probably overthinking that.
In Colorado.
I'll move
well,
right
I
on.
think, yeah.
Are you talking about the final prison he was in, Dylan?
Yeah,
I think he said Colorado.
I don't think he's in New Mexico.
Isn't that Supermax?
New Mexico bar card still worked.
Just say I'm your lawyer. I'm your lawyer. His lawyer from Albuquerque.
Oh, okay. That's probably
Montrose is the Colorado. I think that's the Supermax prison, isn't it?
ADX.
It's like in the mountains.
Yeah, the one that he said I do not want to go to there. The Alcatraz of the Appalachian, or I don't know, whatever.
The Rockies.
Like the Rockies, yeah.
Or the West. Maybe
later, as he paces through his holding cell, Gene hurts his hand by punching the door, collapses on the floor. He notices a graffiti message says, "My lawyer will ream your ass," and bursts into laughter. He gets up and demands another phone call. In Albuquerque, Bill Oakley receives a call on his cell phone from a man he knows as Saul Goodman. Isn't it interesting he called him Saul when he always knew him as Jimmy?
Yeah, but he was Saul for a solid, year in that town before he took off, so...
I'm not using it as a complaint.
Bill respects people's names and pronouns.
He does. Go. He wasn't eating chips, though. I was really hoping he was going to be eating chips. When he called him.
But I think this is kind of like Obi-Wan calling Darth Vader instead of Anakin. It's kind of one of those, like, now I believe that this is who you are type of thing. So I think they purposely showed him saying that, just to see that he, he holds Saul in high esteem. Like, not some people will disagree with that, and I do think that in some ways. But he looked up to him when he found out the jobs that he had and saw how well he was doing, and he mirrored his personality or his advertising like him. So you definitely can say he holds him in high esteem and saw him as a role model in some ways. And for the fact that he kind of he was very disrespectful to him early on in the series.
They were adversaries because he was a prosecutor. So they were always, up against each other.
But he was also really rude to him too, right? Like he was taking a leak and talking to him, petting the prior.
Or like when Saul got arrested and he's like, I had to come and see it for myself. Like, after the stuff,
the tape, after he destroys the tape.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oakley doubts he can mount a successful defense against him. And when Oakley asks how he imagines the scenario ending, Saul responds confidently with "me on top, like always," which is the line I think I've heard Dan say the most.
Oh yeah, that's me. I love me on top.
So I found this interesting. The Breaking Bad wiki is choosing when to call somebody Gene, when to call somebody Saul. I think it's kind of gives the impression that he transformed into Saul once he went down and once he saw the lawyer thing, and then that's when he kind of started getting reinvigorated. And the Gene storyline was dead. But I don't know. I think that's
fair.
I think this when they switch personas is a little bit.
Once he leaves Nebraska, he's not Gene anymore. He's back to being
Yeah.
Saul.
Well, it was calling him Gene when he was calling Cinnabon, and when he punched the wall. But now it's saying. But
Well,
so I think that's on purpose. I think that's
Cinnabon knows him as Gene.
Yeah.
right.
They
Quit
don't know he
arguing
got
with the
arrested
wiki.
yet and that he's really a fugitive from justice.
I'm
Could
assuming.
you imagine what his employees at Cinnabon were thinking when they found out who their boss really was?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Drama.
Oh man, that Slack was lighting up.
I'm assuming, yeah, the Cinnabon Slack. I'm assuming that by the end of this article, it's going to be referring to him as Jimmy. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna. That's my prediction of the week.
Wow.
So
Bold.
Nice.
If anybody's wondering,
the prediction of the week.
there we go. So the prediction is definitely that the Breaking Bad wiki is going to refer to him as Jimmy by the end of it. So Saul is extradited back to Albuquerque and held at the Metropolitan Detention Center. As he is being led through the corridor, he sees Marie Schrader in an adjoining room. Saul and Oakley negotiated a plea with a team of prosecutors who were offering a reduced sentence of 30 years in prison. Knowing that Marie is watching in the negotiation, Jimmy asks that she be allowed in the room. She sits across from Saul and eulogizes her late husband, Hank, and his partner, Steve Gomez, blaming their murders on Walter White. Saul portrays himself as a victim of Walt, which was fucking convincing.
Yeah. Yeah,
he is so good at that. That's the thing about Saul. Like it's just like when he went to the the bar committee hearing and did that whole thing, about
well, that was
regrets.
Jimmy, not Saul. That was Jimmy, not
right.
Saul.
That was Jimmy. He became Saul that day. That was when he got the name changed. Yeah. But that's the thing is like he had that whole thing and Kim was just like, wow, this is, I'm so glad to see this side of him. And then he walks out and he's just like, yeah, I can't believe they actually bought that. And when she realizes, whoa, wait,
because she bought it. She bought it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, the scene where he rats to the malpractice insurance person and cries and he convinced both of us in those scenes.
All that, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So I also think that it was important while we're remembering on this that at the end of the series, like that him convincing Kim needed to show him like he's not bullshitting because he is going to go to jail for a long time because of this.
Oh yeah.
And if he was like, because she's seen him bullshit in court before, and this was obviously no bullshit.
Yeah.
And he insists that everything he did was born out of fear that he'd be killed. Saul reminds the lead prosecutor that he only needs one juror. He just switches, and he does that in front of Marie too, which is fucking heartless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marie warns them against making a deal, but I'm sure he's like, bro, like this, I'm not your personal lawyer. I'm a fucking prosecutor. The next scene shows Marie angry and defeated, leaving. The plea negotiation drags on to the middle of the night, and the prosecutor's team is being forced to agree to a reduced sentence of 7 years. This is something
down from life plus 100 and something years, or I don't know. It would have ended up being like 190 years because they were asking for concurrent or consecutive sentences, not concurrent sentences. And they offered the one-time deal. Yes, I agree. I think that'd be great, Mike. But they offer the one-time deal of 30 years, and that ends up, he talks him down to 7, which I know some people think that's ridiculous. I think someone like in the comments also said that was ridiculous. But what did Saul do to convince the prosecutor of this? He played on, you've never lost a case. Do you really want to lose this one? Because guess what? You put me in front of a jury, which I'm going to insist in testifying on my own behalf. I can sway somebody on that jury and you could lose. So that's why. Like, that's why these things happen. Like, we want to talk about believability. These kinds of plea bargains happen all the time where someone should be facing a life sentence and they get just a couple of years because they're able to negotiate it in such a way because they play on, like, are you really willing to risk letting me go completely?
Oh my God, how often does this happen every day, nonstop, with people who don't get justice? I mean,
Yeah.
nonstop.
Yeah. And the reason that they're able to knock it down to those 7 is because he's not going to have to be like plead guilty to every single charge. They're going to drop some of the charges that have some of the longer mandatory sentences and things like that. So that's how that's able to work. I love the fact that not only does he negotiate it down to 7 years, he also negotiates the Bluebell ice cream.
He tried. He got the prison he wanted, and then he tried. Mm-hmm. But that scene was so great, and then that was how he found out that Kim went to the cops and did turn herself in.
Are you guys upset that Ernesto and Lyle got off without their comeuppance by the end of the series?
Justice for Lyle, man. That poor kid.
Yeah. I would have liked to see Ernesto one more time, but what are you gonna do?
One or two. I would like to see death scenes for both of them. But we didn't get those, and it's okay. It's going to be okay. I think that's what John for council would have really liked too. So I'm with you about that, John. So the plea negotiation drags in the middle of the night. Oh, I already talked about this. Saul successfully pressures the prosecutor to place him on a low security prison in North Carolina as opposed to a maximum security Montrose.
A prison that even has a golf program.
Yeah, wow. That sounds great.
He said if it was good for Bernie Madoff, it would be good enough for me. Now, remember that guy that had cancer that they were trying to con said something about Bernie Madoff being like the worst dude in the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I think that was a callback to that. Feeling smug, he attempts to dangle one last piece of information in a bid to get a sentence reduced even further, the murder of Howard Hamlin. However, Saul is stunned to learn that Kim has already disclosed the truth, meaning he has no more leverage in the negotiation. Oakley is then forced to finalize the plea deal while Saul sits in stunned silence. Before I forget, also, I do want to say that final scene. I appreciate that he didn't lie about Kim's involvement and try to take the whole blame. You know, it wasn't about him taking responsibility or anything like that. He knows that that they supposedly wouldn't try her or whatever. They had bigger fish to fry. But I appreciate that him just being truthful about the whole thing was his redemption.
The thing is, it wasn't just about whether Kim was potentially going to be prosecuted, which it was pretty clear that she wasn't, because even the AUSA, the prosecutor, was saying like, yeah, there's no evidence. You guys say this happened and we believe you, but there's no way we can prove that. We're not going to charge her. And so that was true, but it was the fact that Cheryl Hamlin could and would sue Kim and could not only take everything that she had, but could take everything she was ever going to have. So that was when Saul, who cares a lot about, or Jimmy, who cares a lot about money, we know this, that's really important to him. I think it was just anything that could have consequences for Kim, he wasn't going to let that happen.
Yeah, I agree,
no matter what
Karen.
the consequences were.
I felt like this was a turning point for him. He doesn't want Kim to get in trouble. And he's not to say he's throwing himself on the sword here, but yeah, a big part of him coming clean was to save Kim. And I don't think Cheryl's going to press charges ultimately. That's my guess. I think she's going to let it go just from there's nothing to take. She would just be stealing everything from this woman.
They did make the comment that she was lawyer shopping, but that could have just been, a guy just talking just to get under Jimmy's skin. Who knows? But that whole thing and this deal that Jimmy makes and the fact that he wants to make absolutely sure that nobody is going to come after Kim was the thing that made me really feel like this finale was perfect because it stayed totally true. Like we see those scenes with Mike, we see the scene with Walt, where you see like this is just always who Jimmy has been. He's this guy who is out for himself. He cares about money and whatever. But the one constant in his life, the one person, even though he brought out really terrible qualities in her,
is
the
Ernesto.
One person who's always made him better was Kim.
Yeah.
And it makes total sense that he would recognize that and that he would do what he could to protect her.
Yeah, totally.
Several months earlier, Saul lies on his cot in the basement of Ed Vacuum's shop as Walt tries to repair a faulty water heater. Pointing to Walt's former occupation as a scientist, Saul asks what he would do if he had a time machine. Walt is angrily dismissive of the question and recognizes what Saul is actually talking about is past regrets. He says his biggest regret is allowing his former business partner to take over the company he co-founded and profit off the discoveries. Saul replies his biggest regret is an experience from his youth in which he hurt his leg in a slip and fall. Walt, incredulous, states, "You were always like this," and returns to fixing the water heater, leaving Saul sitting in his cot. He also had talked about how he was like, "Couldn't you just unplug it?" And he goes, "No, I can fix this."
Yeah.
And
Was
this
anyone
kind
else
of shows.
confused? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were over.
I was going to say it shows like the juxtaposition of the character, where Walt is about fixing and his issues, about addressing them directly and not necessarily in the right way, but he does. He kind of takes them head on as far as that goes. While Jimmy is more of a person that would rather just unplug, move on to the next thing, or escape. And I think that was kind of the metaphor there.
Yeah, I can see that.
What were you say that?
I was gonna ask. I was confused. I wish when this scene started, they would have been like, "Boy, we are in the basement of the vacuum man, waiting to be taken away." Like,
Oh, I'm surprised.
I
thought that was
totally
pretty obvious.
forgot. It wasn't to me. Yeah, I forgot that there was even a scene that the two of them were in there. I mean, like I said, it was 8 years ago, and I usually remember
There
this, but
was
yeah, I was
there was
confused.
a scene, I think, in Better Call Saul where it showed a flashback to that.
Yeah, I think it did.
I thought it was this season.
In this season, yeah.
I missed
at the
it.
very beginning. Also, I think that there was a really, really important scene in Breaking Bad where Walter tried to threaten Saul. He's like, "You're going to do this," and he goes, "It's over. I'm about to manage a Cinnabon." That's when he says that line, and he's like, "It's not over till I say it's."
Oh,
and
yeah.
And that's when Saul's like, "It's over." Like he's like, "You're a weak old man. There's nothing you can do to me. It's over."
Yeah.
So I think because of that iconic scene, I think it would be hard for me to have forgotten it. But yeah, they were there for a couple weeks, I believe, together under there. And I hope they decide to make a series about the week together.
Don't ask me to do a
be
podcast.
The next movie.
Hey, amazing bald cap from Bryan Cranston in this.
Wow.
So much better than the El Camino one. The El Camino one, I know I've talked about it a lot, so bad, but this was a very good bald cap. Speaking of which, when I'm looking for a good bald cap, I use Mike's Bald Cap Emporium. So shout out to Mike's Bald Cap Emporium. Use promo code BetterTalkSaul off of. Anyway, so in the present, Saul is on a passenger flight to North Carolina, accompanied by Oakley and U.S. Marshal.
Oh, real quick.
I love how we talk about it as the present when it's like totally in the past.
Super
too.
fast. One thing real fast. The show did such a good job with this. Was this a scene where it went to color? And you're like, oh, wow, maybe now that he's in prison, maybe now it's no more Gene, it's going to be back in color. But it was Walt, and it was in that scene in the boiler room or wherever they were. That tricked me. Never tricked you either. Let's not talk about John in the chat. Okay, Dylan, he's firing you up, and no one else at home listening.
I'm not getting fired up.
Okay.
John for counsel just said the problem I have with the finale, there wasn't a payoff. Why did we watch the show all season to see him go to jail? The correct answer is yes. That's the whole entire reason you watched.
There you go. Okay.
So
well, and I just want to say, if you think that wasn't a payoff, then you must be like fine with murdering federal officers and
now, is that
drug
on
trafficking
your party platform?
and money
Is that on your
laundering.
platform, your council platform, John for counsel? Is this
Like,
what we've been
go to fucking prison, guys?
Is this what we've been endorsing this entire time?
I would like to know, John, in the chat, perhaps, right, what you would have seen as your perfect ending. You don't have to do it right now, or maybe tweet it at us, or next week. How about for next week's mailbag episode?
Yeah,
send us in a voicemail.
Like, send it in an email.
What would have been most
show.
satisfying?
Save it for the show.
Save it for next week's show.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I would really like to know too.
Yeah.
And
but to me, there was a big payoff, and I think that it just wasn't as flashy as maybe some people were expecting.
Yeah.
I agree. Not flashy is a really good way to say it. So, Oakley says while it remains unlikely that Kim's going to be prosecuted, Howard's widow is planning to sue her, just like we talked about. A thought occurs to Saul. He tells Oakley and the marshal that he has more information to divulge about Howard's murder once they land in North Carolina.
No, they're going back to New Mexico for the trial or sentencing or whatever. They weren't going to. They weren't going to North Carolina.
Well, we're going to do a podcast about reviewing the Breaking Bad wiki, and this one gets a thumbs down from Karen Peterson. So I think this is an incredibly important scene that we're about to talk about now. I saw someone say online, and some people talking about it, they thought the scene was unnecessary and heavy-handed, but I'll tell you why I found it important. In Florida, Kim struggles to return to her daily routine. Eventually, she leaves work early and drives to a legal aid office, telling the woman in charge that she wants to volunteer. Working late into the night, they skim over some stuff. I like that she's like, you can just answer the phones, and you could see this look of, like, when she had this look of so much uncertainty we've seen her in the Jean storyline up to now, she had this look of purpose that we haven't seen from her. Again, Ray Seahorns, her facial acting is elite. Mm-hmm. It is as good as it gets, and I do not mean to exaggerate. Her face acting, nonverbal acting with just her facial expressions is like it's on the elite level. It's as good as anybody.
Absolutely. Ever. And I think that scene was so important too, because first of all, helping people that really needed help with, legal issues was something that really made Kim feel valued. And that was the happiest time of her career, was when she was able to do that pro bono work. But because things got so out of hand, she was so torn apart by her part in Howard's death that she had to walk away from all of that. But purging herself of that, admitting what she did and her part in it, freed her to go back to the thing that she loved. So I loved getting to see that for her.
Who could not like that scene? I thought that was so gratifying. And we've all rooted for Kim since day one. And now she's doing what she loves again. And like you said,
and she's not dead.
And she's not dead. She still has her weird bangs. Maybe she'll pull it into a ponytail while she's
going. She got.
I liked her haircut at the end, though.
It did.
I liked her hair. Yeah, that was good.
But like also going back to what I'm saying about her face acting, and I'm sorry to labor that point, but they know how to play the character to actors' strengths. And I think it's not a coincidence that this entire Jean storyline, when showing Kim, she almost didn't speak the whole time. She wasn't talking most of the time. She was staring off into space. She was able to tell a story without even saying any words in a really amazing way. And it's clear that they know that the showrunners know that, and they're using her strengths in this. And this is saying, this is her scene of Jesse riding off into the distance at the end of Breaking Bad. That's what the scene is for Kim, even though we still see her later in the show. I like that they didn't show that. Well, I don't know. Maybe this would have been even good as a final scene, but maybe that would have been a little heavy-handed if this was the final scene of the whole series. But I didn't think that through very long, so maybe that's a bad idea. But maybe that would have been nice. Maybe that would have been nice just to, after they say goodbye, it just shows her going to a legal office. But maybe that would have been heavy-handed.
It's got to end with.
I agree with Mike in the chat about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, them sharing a cigarette's got to be the ending. It's not Better Call Kim.
Working late at night. I also think it was important for them, and I think that there's a purpose to it that I haven't really thought through, and I'm going to talk about it later in the series or show if I can think of it. But I think it was important to show that she did this before she reconnected with Jimmy, to show that she did this on her own already based on what she decided to do. This was not about what Jimmy did that made her feel like she can go do that. It was about her own actions that allowed her to let go of that and then go do good for the community. It's not that Jimmy confessed and now she can go do it. That's the purpose of showing that there rather than the final scene, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Working late into the night, she's filling cabinets when she received a call on her cell phone from ADA Suzanne Erickson in Albuquerque.
It was good to see her again too. One last time.
This show, man, they don't like to get new actors or new characters for it. They decide they're good on characters for the most part. Performing the call as an unofficial courtesy, Erickson informs Kim that Saul was captured 2 days previously. What's more, Saul is offering to give a testimony that will affect Kim. Kim is shocked by the details of Saul's potential testimony. And then we'd probably got 6 minutes of commercials after that.
And this all makes sense. I mean, before that, there was a shitty meeting they had in his office where he was an absolute prick. And the next one was when he called her out of the blue and wasn't very kind to her either. So yeah, it's totally within his character that he would do something to drag her down. Or a ploy just to get her out there because he wants to do his little.
He's working an angle.
And why would she know that he was really trying to help her out? Because, like you say, I mean, the last couple of interactions they've had have been so bad, and he did so much worse, terrible stuff after they split up, and she knows, like, he's a federal fugitive, like she knows everything that he's been charged with. So yeah, it makes total sense that she would buy the, oh wow, he's gonna try to sell me out.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to give another reminder. I know I talked about it, but next week for the mailbag episode, you can just record a voice memo on your phone.
That'd be cool.
And email it to us, bettertalksaul@gmail.com. That's a really cool way that I don't listen to it before, so don't say anything fucking weird. You'll get our YouTube channel. No, I shouldn't have even said that.
Yeah, why did you say that? Now we're going to get some insanity. You better listen to these now.
Just know that you can get a reaction out of us because we won't listen to it before, but we will ban you forever if you say anything freaking bad. Forever when the show's almost over. So I love that shark skin suit that he rocked into.
Was it shark skin?
For sentencing. What?
Was it shark skin?
I heard it referred to as shark skin.
So I was so happy when they did that thank you thing at the end after the show, because I was like, oh, now we get to actually see what that suit looked like. Because I feel like that was the suit he was wearing. That pink with the yellow shirt. It looked so good. Because I was wondering, like, what does that suit look like in color?
Right. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's made from shark skin. It's like, that's like the cut, the style.
Okay, that makes sense.
He skinned the shark himself.
It's like that shiny,
Yeah, I think so.
So it's also, I also like that too, because listening to Juan Carlos Esposito's character, I'm sorry, his actual voice is freaking bizarre to hear his actual voice.
Yeah, he's happy.
So different. Yeah. I actually interviewed him a couple seasons ago.
Really?
Yeah. This was when I was still with the Word Circuit, and so I got to interview him for Better Call Saul. It was Better Call Saul and The Mandalorian together. We were talking about both, and he was the kindest, most just generous person to talk to.
That's what he wants you to think. He was manipulating you, Karen.
But he was just so warm. And when we were talking, I even asked him, I'm like, you're such a warm and friendly person. Like, how do you become this like face of pure evil? And he was just talking about, he just really dove into changing your mannerisms and just slowing down your speech and stuff. And it was just like, and so he like went into the Saul character in the interview, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so creepy.
Oh wow, how cool is that?
It was amazing. Yeah, such a nice guy.
I think, John Vercouncil, what you want is a choose your own adventure book. I think you should look into choose your own adventure books if you want the specifics.
Didn't Kim get enough crap about her relationship with Jimmy? She really didn't need one more final thing with like D.A. Erickson. By the way, the guy you fucking divorced, you never should have married him. Like, yeah, I know. That's why I divorced him. I'm just saying.
So Saul wearing, okay, so sorry. Oakley Marie and Steve Gomez's wife, and Kim is also in there. The latter sitting in the back row. And while he's making a statement to the judge is like, bro, what is this? Why is it so little? And
the
starts off saying the exact same thing So you think, oh wow, he's just doing that rehearsed statement all over again. And why does he really think this is going to work on the judge? And then he doesn't.
However,
Dun, dun, dun.
he throws the hearing into disarray by confessing that, far from being a victim, he was a willing and indispensable participant of Walt's drug empire. Voice breaking, he admits the role he played in his brother Chuck's suicide. Credits Kim for starting over legitimately after Howard's murder and addresses himself as James McGill for the first time in years. So when before he brought up Howard, he looked back to Kim and really didn't get much of a reaction. And then he looked back and decided to go further. Talked about Howard's murder, his brother, referred to himself as James McGill. And talk about face acting. I'll talk about it one more time. He looks back at her, still to no reaction, and he kind of looks down, looks back up, and her face just rewatch the scene, people, because she just kind of relaxes her face just a fucking hair and communicated to everybody watching and to him that she's proud of him. Not a lot of shows, not a lot of characters do that subtle and a subtle and effective way of communication. There's nobody that walked away from that unsure of what the communication was said between them, and that's why I am going to miss Ray Seahorn and miss her character. There's a show that she's in that they showed a trailer for, by the way.
Yeah.
It looked like a comedy, like a sitcom or something.
Yeah, I'm worried about all these people and their next step because they're on a show with such good writers, such good cinematography, such good everything, that the next thing they're in, they may end up looking shitty just by nature of the vehicle when it's really not fair to them. And it could ruin, she could be in this comedy thing, it could be trash, and then she may never be in something again. And that's it. And that would be awful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are.
Good.
They're really good again about writing to actors' strengths. You know, like I think that's something you could say about Bryan Cranston. You could say that about Aaron Paul. You know, Aaron Paul was not even taken very seriously in the beginning. They were going to kill him off in the fucking first season. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of
his career since Breaking Bad has not been great.
Well, also,
he's pretty good in Westworld. That.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's in that because I don't watch it. But movie-wise, like his movies have been awful.
Yeah, Bob Odenkirk,
Camino, which I actually thought was good.
Bob Odenkirk. Look at how we looked at him as an actor then and now.
Yeah.
You know? But my point is that it's not just the writing; it's the writing is playing to the strengths of the actors also that makes both of them look better. It makes the writers look better, and it makes the actors look better.
Yeah.
Anyway, his conscience cleared. Jamie sits back at the defendant's table and looks at Kim while Oakley and Costello team argue about the plea agreement. I love that Oakley's like, yo, can I just get out of here? And they're like, no. And he's like, can I just go? Can I recuse myself from this case? So funny.
What a wiener. He's still a wiener.
I mean, you know, I hate to do it.
I get it.
Hey, that's the funniest moment of the week.
Definitely. Shout outs to that scene.
Definitely.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I had already pressed the button.
That was for sure the funniest moment of the week.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Need for Speed. I forgot about that.
Yeah, everyone should forget about that.
He's a crummy defense lawyer. Like, if you get stuck with him, I think you'd be upset. You want someone like Saul who's going to get you off, especially if you did a crime, not Bill. What's he going to do?
The problem is he's a criminal lawyer, not a criminal lawyer.
Oh, zing.
Shout out to Tino in the chat.
Hi,
giving shout outs to Dan and I doing the podcast together. I'm sure you've missed most of this last couple seasons of Better Talk Saul, but yeah, Dan and I, we're back at it, back and better than ever.
Yeah, and over my dead body doing a Walking Dead podcast. Sorry.
Oh well, I was going to ask that next.
As a zombie, hey, I'll tell you right now, don't ask me.
You know what I love? You know what I do love about Dan is I'll go with Dan about something. I have an idea to do a podcast episode about, and if he's not into it, he's like, no.
Yeah.
He's not rude about it, but he also doesn't agree to something and then flake out on it. He just is like, "Nah, I don't want to do that." And I appreciate that you just don't waste my time.
Yeah, I'll tell
Don't
you.
waste my motherfucking time. Al Pacino, Heat. In the
I'll
early
tell ya.
2000s, Jimmy
Never heard of it.
delivers groceries to Chuck's house. Chuck expressed interest in hearing about Jimmy's fledgling solo practice. Jimmy clearly finds his clients distasteful. What? Jimmy
No.
clearly finds his
Chuck
clients
does.
distasteful, but
Who
Chuck
did this
tells
Maybe.
him
Yeah, I
that.
don't know.
You're having some trouble this week.
But
Yeah,
Chuck
doesn't-
tells him that they deserve a good legal defense. Oh, okay. Yeah, I
That's
guess
true. That
okay.
part does happen, yeah.
Yeah.
Chuck seemingly wants. I think doesn't.
I
Find
read
his
that
clients
scene.
distasteful. He assumes that Chuck would find them distasteful.
Yeah, that's
Right.
how I watched that scene, was that Jimmy kind of was defending his client list to Chuck. And then Chuck even encouraged him, was like, well, no, they deserve a good defense too.
Chuck
I think
seemingly.
Jimmy's so used to Chuck being a shithead to him that he assumed it. But I thought this was a genuine moment for Chuck. Like, no, like
Yeah.
let's talk about it, brother. And
What
he
I
didn't
also
want to.
Yeah, what I also got from that scene, it left me wondering if the early season stuff with Chuck was really more supposed to be like filtered through Jimmy's perspective. I mean, Chuck
Mhm.
was a monster in a lot of ways. He definitely was, but I feel like so much of what we saw of their relationship was filtered through Jimmy, and this time it was really seeing their relationship more as it actually was and not just as Jimmy saw it. That was how that
Yeah.
scene played out to me. So I thought, gosh, maybe Chuck really wasn't as horrible to Jimmy as he always seemed. Like maybe there were a lot of moments where he really was just trying to encourage him and trying to mentor him in genuine, sincere ways.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
like
it's not
any
Jimmy
Karen
bad.
dismissed it.
Yeah, you're totally right, Karen. And like any bad relationship, though, you fall back into those habits of like, well, fine then. You know what? I tried. Screw
Mhm.
you. I tried to ask you about your stupid clients, Jimmy. That's how you want to
Yeah.
be, and then they just never. And then years go by, and they don't know who started the fight, but they're just angry. But yeah,
That's
Chuck
true.
is a
Yeah.
monster. I'm glad you
Sounds like
mentioned that
Dan's
too.
venting about his kids right now.
I am just, human nature, perhaps.
Yeah.
Chuck seemingly wants a genuine conversation with Jimmy, saying it's not too late for him to change his path. But Jimmy assumes that his brother is criticizing him, so we get a scene of them both not criticizing, but assuming the worst of one another,
Yeah.
and rebuffs his attempts. After Jimmy leaves, Chuck takes his gas lantern and a copy of H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, retreats into his study. So, I think this was a bit of a reveal. So,
Yeah.
I think if you read the tea leaves together, I think what happens is while in jail, Jimmy discovers the secret to time travel. And these scenes are him going back and changing things in the past up to now in the show. So we've been watching a different type of show that we didn't realize, but really he's been tinkering with time travel the entire time, which I think really adds some layers to it. I think that adds some layers to the show, the entire thing.
That is one hell of a
Yeah.
payoff.
Right. That's the biggest payoff you could possibly
Wow.
get. You can't get
I'm
a bigger
doing-
payoff than that.
You see my face acting right now? I'm acting like that's a good theory. And that's it. It was a nice way, though, for him to bring back the time machine without saying you have a time machine. Like, that was a nice little moment.
Yeah.
and remember, that's the first scene chronologically of those three scenes. So
Yeah.
chronologically, that's the first of those three scenes.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I think that something tells me part of him is thinking about his brother in those scenes as well. Perhaps, or Bravo Vince could have been symbolism, could have been a lot of things, a multitude of things. It's usually a little bit of a bunch of things,
Yeah.
and it also is to make us go Bravo Vince.
Well, yeah, it's exactly. And it does make sense because the first scene with Mike, he's talking about a time machine. By that point, Chuck has already died. And then when you see the scene with Walt, and like we were saying, Walt calls him out, and it's just like, you're not talking about a time machine, you're talking about regret. And yeah, I think that really is a layer of it, is that he has been talking about regret all the time. And his biggest regret isn't Howard, it's Chuck. Because there's even that scene when they're in that negotiation conversation for his sentencing where Bill is like, when he's talking about Chuck's suicide, and Bill is like, that's not a crime. And Jimmy says, yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also think, I also want to give a shout out to that scene when they're in the courtroom and the camera, when he's talking about his brother, the camera pans up and goes behind
To the exit sign.
Exit sign, yeah. And you hear the buzzing sound. That's how the episode ended when he had a meltdown in court. It panned up behind the exit sign and you heard the buzzing sound the exact same way.
Yeah.
So
that was nice.
I think that was another really good callback. I can see the joy. Very seldom do I get that much joy from Dan's face, but we definitely saw a big smile on his face to talk about that.
I was pumped that you brought that up. Thank you.
In 2010, Jimmy, not present day, 2010, Breaking Bad Wiki, I can say this because this is the last time I have to read you. You're a mess this time. This week you're a mess, and we are going to be giving you a 1-star review on iTunes.
Oh, my.
Just kidding. You're not that bad, but do better for the next episode. Do better for the next episode.
Like, just go clean it up a little bit.
Clean it up. It was your editor. We need an editor here. In 2010, Jimmy's transported by bus to ADX Montrose. One of the prisoners on the bus sitting in front of Jimmy initially threatens him, but quickly recognizes him as Saul Goodman, despite Jimmy insisting his name is McGill. The other prisoners recognize him as Better Call Saul. One by one, they all start saying the Better Call Saul slogan in the basis of a chant. Jimmy smiles amused. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked that scene. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was cheesy. I thought it totally fit.
Do you think it's a scene that you need that just the way it is? If it was done a little differently, would you be okay with it too?
I mean, it would depend on what they did differently.
If
I was fine with it as it is. I would have been. How better? That's I don't.
Are you being a dick right now? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he is.
It's a very open-ended question.
Like, that's the thing, is like, I was fine with it the way it was. If they had done it a little differently, I probably would have been fine with that too. I think the point of it was just these guys know him. He is their people. They're gonna look out for him. He's not gonna be in trouble. He's not gonna be in danger with
a scene I would have preferred is definitely heavy-handed and a little cheesy, but like somebody goes to attack him and one person goes, "No, that's Saul. Better call Saul." And then they all start chanting, "Better call Saul."
That would have been cheesy.
That might have been a little
the reason I was cool with the chanting, because Mike just commented on that, but the reason I was cool with the chanting was because it was like the only thing really that those prisoners could do that would piss off the guards, and the guards could do jack shit about it. And it just was like, yeah, this kind of, I don't know. It was this kind of solidarity moment among these prisoners that are on their way to this horrible prison, and the prison guards are just kind of,
you sing when you're on a bus. You sing. It's like 99 bottles of beer on the wall. They were
exactly.
I don't know. I'll be nitpicky.
It's a really long bus ride.
Yeah. I didn't think I'd say that this episode, but I agree with John from Council. He said, "I think an important point you missed with Jimmy admitting he hurt Chuck when he didn't have to, referencing the insurance scam he pulled on his brother. This is the first time Ray, when he means Kim, had heard that." That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. So shout out to John from Council. We're voting for you again. We're voting for you now.
Yeah, you're back.
I never said I wasn't.
But yeah, I think that's a really good point. That she hadn't heard that before. And I think we got a reaction out of her when you said it, if I remember correctly. But I wasn't even thinking about that. Yeah, I also agree with you on this one, but it's okay. All right, so
well, you guys can just be wrong. It's fine.
I have a dog bark collar behind me that I'm setting off by talking too loud. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Later,
poor puppy.
Yeah, when that beeps, I have to talk quieter. Later, while he is fixing his food in prison kitchen, Jimmy's he's making bread.
Of course he is. He's a baker at this point, man. Come on.
He's they're
that's got to be one of the plush jobs in the prison is getting to work in the bakery.
They're playing to his strengths.
Yeah.
And his strength is now baking. Jimmy is told that a lawyer has come to see him. Take him to the visitation room. He finds that
I knew it was Kim. I knew immediately when they said your lawyer's here. I was like, "Oh, Kim came! Oh my gosh!"
Yeah.
He finds that his lawyer is Kim, and she's there for a conjugal visit, I think, right? That would have been bad.
No, you
yeah.
to show off her breakup haircut.
Yeah.
I also
that
like
would have been too much if they'd like kissed or like. I still think he's got a long way to go to be completely.
Or if she's a lawyer again, I think that would have been too much too.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was gonna have a ponytail. I thought if she had her like tight ponytail again, and be like, all right, she's back on.
She's done with the tight ponytail. She's done with that.
But her membership card with the New Mexico bar, so she didn't have an expiration date. So I like how it's a little bit of a harmless scam, also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then evoking their
Not
talk.
exactly. Wait, maybe that's not harmless. I feel like lying to get into a federal prison is probably pretty bad. But you're right. At least she did.
I mean, she wasn't doing it to do anything bad. It's not like she did that
sure.
so that she could break him out.
So Dan, would you say that was?
Ladies and gentlemen, the worst decision of the week.
Is that what you would go out on a limb and say, Dan?
Me doing this podcast with you is the worst. No, I don't really have a worst decision, to be honest. I
think
really
the worst decision of the week was hiding in a dumpster.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
What the fuck else was he gonna do? He was fucking got no matter what.
Yeah.
There were buildings. He could have gone and hidden a building.
He should have pulled out the finger guns.
Then he would have gotten shot. That would have been the finale.
Definitely.
Evoking their talks together in the HHM parking lot, the two share a cigarette and leaning against the wall. This is a reference to the pilot, where they smoke together like that, and the similar shadows on the wall like that too. Yeah. That's where we learned how.
Except for the shadows were opposite this time, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. And the color, there was coloring on the cigarette too.
Well, yeah, this isn't black and white, guys.
What?
I'm just saying the color grading is opposite, but
no, I mean the shadows were opposite.
No,
I know what you were saying. I was making a bad joke. It was really bad. Most of my jokes are bad. Really bad. We've gotten great emails in about how bad my jokes are. So
stay in your lane.
I like that that first episode where they showed him coming up and taking her cigarette. To go and put your fingers up to somebody's lips and take a cigarette from them shows a level of trust and intimacy between the two people. So that really painted the picture of how close they were in the first place. And you see that there was a little bit of shakiness from her hands, and he took her hands, and we saw his hands were calm, like he was at peace there in that prison. I think that was a good way of kind of showing that he's at peace where he is in life now, and that he's planning on getting off on good behavior and reduce the 86-year sentence, maybe to get out in 84, 83.
Well, what I was trying to figure out, and maybe they do say this, I haven't rewatched it yet, but I was trying to figure out if he's going to be eligible for parole.
At all?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. Maybe not. I'd like to think he would, but
I would think, at some point.
Dang, dude, mean.
that was he's a Dan with the joke of the night, and Dylan with the worst joke of the night. That was nice
feelings.
Bookend.
For those of you listening, John from Council is just very, very mean to me. So the we learned from the dialogue that the plea agreement was quashed and Jimmy's been sentenced to 86 years. She walks out of the prison. Kim sees Jimmy watching from next to his yard. They look longingly at each other through the barbed wire fence. He gives her a pointed gun gesture, which was the same pointed gun gesture he gave when he said Saul Goodman, when he had changed. So now we know the bookend of Saul Goodman is gone. Bravo, Vince.
Yeah, and she did that too. There was a scene where I think when they were first doing the scam, she hit him with the finger guns.
And I loved how her perspective showed the wall kind of close him off, and that he was, that he's at peace, and they're not together, but they're not apart also. And I like that. I
liked that long shot too, where it showed how much actual physical distance was between the two, with her on one side of one fence and him on the other side of another fence, and there's so much space in between that, like, on one angle it looks like they're actually just right on each side of the fence and they can see each other, like, and touch each other through it. But when you pull back, it's like, no, there's many yards in between them. There's this distance that is always going to be there.
I don't think that will be the last time they see each other. Also, if it doesn't expire, she can come and visit him whenever.
I bet she will. The cinematography in this show, I mean, that scene alone. What about the scene where Walt, the camera is like through the water heater pilot light area? Like, the way they get these angles is incredible.
Yeah,
I agree. They show off their cinematography skills.
They really do.
They really do. They like a lot of things. They like to understate it. They do not like to understate their cinematography in any way, shape, or form.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right. For the finale, I think we're going to skip the segments. We have predictions and stuff like that. But I do just want to say one thing, which is the best line of the week.
It's line of the week.
I hate how it automatically mutes when we do that. So I'm gonna see Karen, if you want to start off. I don't want to steal yours.
Yeah.
For me, it was that final line. It was 86 years. You had him down to 7. Maybe with good behavior, who knows? With good behavior, who knows? That was the line for me, because that summed up Saul.
Yeah.
And Jimmy.
Yeah, I feel like that was such a nice moment too, because this whole Saul thing was such like almost like an act and like a weird shell. Jimmy's who he really was. I mean, he's a good guy. He really is. So I'm glad that he got back to that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that, I mean, there's some that's like the name's McGill, James McGill.
That was mine. So get that out of the way. If you got a better one, go for it.
Well, I was gonna say that's a bad line to select. So
I could tell you were, and so I wanted to say it real quick.
saying that, but I liked him revealing, taking away his facade, which said, when he said, "You think the jurors are going to buy that?" and he goes, "One. All I need is one." And then he basically says his whole strategy immediately right there. This is a strategy, and I'm showing you how well I can act. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm actually trying to purposely show you that I'm acting, because I want you to know that this is my strategy. This is going to be my strategy. It's going to work, because look how quickly I was able to switch it off. And,
Yeah, he almost convinced Marie. Like, if I could almost convince a widow, just what do you think I'm going to do with a juror?
Yeah.
Do you switch widow to widower?
I feel like you do, right?
No, it's widow.
It's a gal.
Yeah, it's gal's widow.
No, you're
widower.
A wife is a widow. A husband is a widower.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we don't need
Mike
to.
had a good line.
Oh, she left town, but I was the one that ran away. That is I wish I'd selected that one. I give you credit, endless Mike.
Yeah, that was a good one.
What the fuck? Anyway,
that was a good line too. I don't think it was the best, the one that John said, because that was also.
What the fuck?
No, I wasn't talking about that.
So
I was talking about when Walt says, "You've always been like this."
Sleep it off, John for Council, and we'll talk to everybody here next week. We don't really have to say all of our overarching thoughts, because we can save some of them for next week. But if anybody has anything up to say, now is your time, or forever hold your pizza.
I think this was a perfect finale, and I'm really excited to watch it again now, knowing exactly how it plays out, and looking for all those hidden nuggets that we have totally, that we missed the first time, because there's always so much more stuff that I get when I watch it again.
So
I'm just happy too. Thanks for doing the show. Thanks for everybody for listening.
Thank you for letting me crash the party.
Yeah, no, you made the show better. then it could have been
thank
Karen.
you.
So thank you.
I was
Thank
against it the whole time, but Dan
It's
really
true.
kept pulling for it, and he kept saying, "No, she's not that bad," and all this kind of stuff. But I do want to say again, email us at bettertalksaul@gmail.com. It's better than tweeting at us, but if you would like to tweet at us, we can. But it just helps me keep everything in one little place. Email us bettertalksaul@gmail.com and let us know some topics, conversations, some voice memos that you would like us to discuss in the mailbag episode next week. And then after that, we'll take a month off and we'll do season 1 of Breaking Bad. So we still got lots more to do. And thank you guys for being in the chat. Really appreciate it. And thank you for those that are listening to this. Thank you, Dan and Karen. It's been a ride. I can't believe it's over.
Been a journey. What a journey.
It's been a long road. But I'm glad I started this podcast. When I started this podcast, I couldn't. The reason I did a bunch of different co-hosts at the beginning is I didn't have a fucking co-host. Dan was like, fuck no. I didn't know Karen Peterson yet. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to share it with anybody. I want to start the show and just let it be mine in the first place. So the first 2 fucking seasons, I had a different person for every single one, which was kind of fun, but it was also exhausting to try to book different people each and every week. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. Lots of co-hosts on the show over the time, but I'm glad we settled with the best one.
We won. Karen and I won.
Glad we settled with the best one, which was me the whole time. I was there the whole time. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you guys for listening. That's it. I'm Dylan Schuck.
I'm Nick Fields.
I'm Karen Peterson.
And we'll see you guys next week.